a hard stop because I got to get my my rear end down to Connecticut. And Megan, thank you for that. I just fixed it and switched over to the proper stream. I don't know why it keeps doing that by default, but it is what it is. Anyways, I got to get myself down to Connecticut, which means I can't be too late because I'm going with my brother and I got to meet him. So let's get to all the fun and festivities, and I hope you're all having an amazing morning. As I said in the previous stream that we had just set up, this for you, those of you who don't know, this is we're doing this on TikTok for the second time. Last time I said a naughty word, so TikTok banned me for, I don't know, 2 weeks or something like that. It's going to be great when TikTok is finally banned. But anyways, so we're going to try this again, just a little experiment. Okay, so I think, having seen what went on Twitter yesterday, I think Jerry Butts needs a copy of my book. What do you think? Do you think Jerry Butts needs a copy of my book? I think so. And I'll tell you why. I'm going to start over here with something that I have queued up and I have ready. Let me just set it up. Let me just click the button over. And yeah, okay, here we go. So you guys can all see it, I think. Let me play it, and I think you'll be able to hear it on all the streams right now. Again, the video is not important. It's just what you're listening to is important. It is in black and white. It's the John Birch Society, 1969, from G. Edward Griffin.
In 1943, the following directive was issued from party headquarters to all communists in the United States. It read, "When certain obstructionists become too irritating, label them after suitable buildups as fascist, or Nazi, or anti-Semitic, and use the prestige of anti-fascist and tolerance organizations to discredit them. In the public mind, constantly associate those who oppose us with those names which already have a bad smell. The association will, after enough repetition, become fact in the public mind." Okay,
so that's just a little video that we're going to discuss because I think we all understand. We're seeing a lot of that going on. And it's funny that you see that when I mention Jerry Butts. For those of you who don't know, people who are in the United States, Jerry Butts was the chief of staff of Prime Minister Blackface, the most racist person to hold office in Canadian history. So that's got to be embarrassing. And as people know, often the chief of staff has probably the most power within the government. Everybody in politics knows that. Jesse, no, he won't read it. Well, maybe you have an open mind. But and just to show how much power they have, and particularly with Jerry Butts, who is no longer the chief of staff, but he in their very first caucus meeting, this is from a source inside the Liberal Party. I cannot verify, but I do know it came from a highly credible source. That in their very first caucus meeting, when Trudeau, I can see comments here. What is that? Okay, so I'm getting all these things. When Trudeau came to the very first caucus meeting, the way it normally works is, you have a bunch of bills and there's a summary on each bill, and you discuss how you're going to vote on it. And it's for caucus members only. So elected officials only attend that. No staffers, no nothing. So in this unprecedented move, in the very first caucus meeting, apparently, what I was told, is Jerry Butts joined in the first caucus meeting. And the rest of the caucus members were looking at each other and saying, what's he doing here? And Trudeau sat down at the table and he said, I just want to ensure you all understand we're a team here, and this is how, we're going to function as a team. And anytime Jerry's speaking, it's as though I'm speaking. And everybody looked at each other and said, this is not protocol. This is not how it works. And then he goes on to say, remember, the leader's the one who's supposed to be setting the table, setting the stage for all the bills and the voting. Then Trudeau goes on to say, okay, so what's the first bill and how are we going to vote? And everybody looked at each other in the Liberal caucus thing. I think we got a problem. So that's how things started. And now apparently it's dwindled down to there's really just 20 people who run the PMO, and everyone else hates them and wants them just to get out and move on with their lives and go spend some time with their families. But that's just kind of a little bit how it goes. So anyways, why do I bring up a Jerry Butts, right? Very simple. Yesterday, for those of you on Twitter, some of you were not, Sonia, what's Butts doing now? He's running some consulting company or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but anyways. What did I do that? Well, anyways, whatever. Hold on. I'll get to the comments in a second. Did you, what's it called? Did you, yeah, okay, sorry. So yesterday on Twitter, Jerry Butts retweets remember this narrative that we all laughed at during the convoy? Like, I fell over laughing, which was that the convoy was a Russian plot. It was Russian disinformation, Russian collusion, everything. Like, I don't understand the obsession with Russian. I mean, I think I know why, but still, doesn't make it proper. And so Jerry Butts posted this on Twitter. He said, quote, "Russia's propaganda network covered the fake trucker convoy more often than other international outlets combined. Fox News was a distant second. This paper deserves a wide audience. Freedom Convoy indeed." Okay, so he's referencing what's called a paper that was written by somebody who is a political mouthpiece. Now, before I continue, remember the last stream, what did we discuss? For those of you who are on TikTok, you may not have seen it. Go back to the last stream and watch it. We discussed over a period of time who are the least credible people in society. And you all agreed it was politicians, lawyers, and the media. So once again, we have all three trying to promulgate a narrative. So you should right away start with, this is probably all complete bullshit, right? So anyways, he's quoting somebody by the name of Caroline or Bueno, which I still can't love. If you speak Spanish and English, and particularly if you're not Latino and you learn Spanish, you understand why that name is so comical. Caroline or Bueno, Caroline or good. It's weird. It's weird in both languages. So she is a well-known far left mouthpiece, far left extremist within the Democratic Party in the United States, a foreign country. She's one of those people destroying the Democratic Party. And Hitchhiker, good morning, brother. Started with you on my screen, by the way. Anyways, she put together a report of Russia. It's called Russia's Role in the, quote, far-right trucker convoy. Now, we all have to understand that to a communist, anything, including free speech and church on Sundays, is considered far-right. And remember, they're using this term far-right as a label and a pejorative. And what did we just discover about labels and pejoratives and tactics? Well, let's watch it again. Here we go.
1943, the following directive was issued from party headquarters to all communists in the United States. It read, "When certain obstructionists become too irritating, label them after suitable buildups as fascist or Nazi or anti-Semitic, and use the prestige of anti-fascist and tolerance organizations to discredit them. In the public mind, constantly associate those who oppose us with those names which already have a bad smell. The association will, after enough repetition, become fact in the public mind."
So what they're doing, again, is they're using this tactic, and they're using the fake clout of a university, in this case, University of Maryland. Don't send your kids there, by the way, where she works for, to promulgate this strategic tactic that is used by communists to smear the Freedom Convoy, ironically to call it Russian, which is where these tactics were originally developed. So she writes in her post, this is Caroline or bueno, or malo. Malo o bueno. Peor, mejor. She says, quote, these people are ridiculous. It's so funny. It's like, you ever gone to a rodeo? I've gone to rodeos in Mexico, and, you know, when it all starts, the clown car comes out, like a legitimate clown car, full of people who come out, and then the mariachis come and whatever. This is the clown car. Like, these people are completely ridiculous. She writes, and apparently she takes herself seriously, which I find even funnier. I published a 7,000-word analysis of the Journal of Intelligence, Conflict, and Warfare today, documenting evidence of Russian influence. We'll get the emphasis in a second. Of Russian influence, activists targeting the 2022 Canadian Freedom Convoy via state-funded media proxy sources and Telegram groups. State-funded media proxy sources. State-funded media proxy sources. The CBC? That's a state-funded proxy media source. Is that what she's talking about? I don't know. You know, and I skimmed through this report, and I got to tell you, firstly, this is what an uneducated leftist thinks a smart person sounds like. This is what they think an academic sounds like. This is not. You're lowering academic standards that Dr. Gadsad was talking about yesterday on Twitter. This is what you get. And you know who she sources as her evidence for this report? Rachel Gilmore, the TikTok girl. So it's a university report based on someone on TikTok. Like, oh my God, it's so funny. And when you look at the evidence submitted. She posts all these videos from Russia Today. Now, for those of you who don't know, if you remember, when they started this bullshit during the Freedom Convoy, I immediately responded to Russia Today's inquiry, because I was getting media inquiries from all over the world. And I immediately responded to RT and said, hey, I'm going to come on, because I wanted them to do this. I was hoping they would do this, because it's just going to discredit themselves, right? People are not dumb. People understand when they're being lied to. They may be quiet, but they know when it's complete nonsense, right? And coupled to something else, and this is what I was going to respond to that moron who was supposed to be representing me as a member of the board, but then thought he was cross-examining me, Brendan Miller, when he said, you went on a Russian propaganda network. Yeah, those are your conservatives, by the way. And my response, which I was going to say, but I thought would have been a little bit too snarky for the commission, was a click is a click. I don't care what network it's on. I care that there's eyes watching it. That's all I care about. I don't care the policies, the political bias, whatever. That's why I just did, as long as they're going to promulgate it in my full context and not deceptively edit it, which is what fake news does, or lie by omission, which is what the National Post just did with my 2 hour-and-a-half long video, and we got 2 lines that they couldn't even get the name of the book right. It's like, fuck. Oh, they're so pathetic. Never again. So anyways, this is their report that they're promulgating this fake narrative on. And what's interesting about that is Caroline Orr Bueno is not Canadian. She's a foreigner. She's from the United States. Is Jerry Butts colluding with a foreign entity? Remember how much they were screaming and yelling about, oh, the money for the Freedom Convoy is coming from the United States. Well, Jerry Butts' information is coming from the United States. Okay, so there's the first question is, 1, Jerry Butts is colluding with people in the United States and the Democratic Party with a mouthpiece for the DNC. Why? Why is that happening? And then number 2 is Jerry Butts, who is a well-known eco-extremist, pushes policies that directly benefit Russia. Right? Shutting down the oil sands, shutting down Canada's energy sector. Who does that benefit? That benefits Russia. Is Jerry Butts colluding with Russia? I mean, that's what I would conclude from this, that he's, his policies favor Putin. His disinformation, what do you call it, a scandal, but his disinformation network comes from the United States, a foreign entity. Is Jerry Butts a foreign operative? Is that what's going on? I don't know. Maybe not. It's just kind of funny to see that this is the type of. Remember, I said the clown car coming out of the rodeo. This is what the clown car always converges on. The most entertaining outcomes that are completely ridiculous. And I also I then responded to all of this, and I put on Twitter. I put a Twitter poll up, and I said, "Is Jerry Butts?" I asked this poll, and you can find it and still answer. I think it's only for 24 hours, but is Jerry Butts a Russian bot, a drunk again, or Putin's jockstrap? Right? Those are the three choices that you have. So I put this out there in response to these ridiculous tweets. What do you think? Do you think that Jerry Butts is either a Russian bot, drunk again, or Putin's jockstrap? And I put it out to you, and some of you responded, and here are the results. So 9.7% of you think that Jerry Butts is a Russian bot. 52.6% of you, 52.6% of you think that Jerry Butts is drinking again. Right? And then 37.7% of you think that Jerry Butts is Putin's jockstrap. All right. And my best to close this all up, my favorite response from all of this was from a Twitter account called Canadian Dissident, and he responds, "LOL. If the Freedom Convoy was fake, then why was the Emergency Act necessary?" They keep painting themselves into a corner, and they, anyways, they are what they are. And please don't harass and attack any of these people. They're political operatives. They definitely have a mandate, and they definitely have a strategy. And just to remind you, when you listen to the CBC or Jerry Butts or the Trudeau-era liberals, because we'll give some cover to people who are liberals who hate Trudeau, of which there are a lot of them, and I happen to know that. Just always remember this.
In 1943, the following directive was issued from party headquarters to all communists in the United States. It read, "When certain obstructionists become too irritating, label them after suitable buildups as fascist or Nazi or anti-Semitic, and use the prestige of anti-fascist and tolerance organizations to discredit them. In the public mind, constantly associate those who oppose us with those names which already have a bad smell. The association will, after enough repetition, become fact in the public mind." So,
I didn't post that link in the show notes, but if you just search online G. Edward Griffin on communist smear tactics, which is what these are, that's why for people who are on the more centrist and whatever, when we call them communists and you have no idea why we're saying that, we're talking about that, this is why. It's because they use the smear tactics that were created by the communists, public shame, calling people like, I don't know, that's why I got to keep bringing up the fact that I'm Jewish, and I hate doing that because I'm pretty secular, and I just hate having to bring up identity politics. But because they're so drunk and addicted to politics, that the way to push back against the smear is to show that you're smearing the very people that you claim you're protecting, the people that you're trying to use as a shield. David, G. Edward Griffin, Paul Harvey, Dr. John Coleman. Paul Harvey's awesome. I used to listen to him all the time in the States, and recently, about a month ago, maybe this is more the simulation while you're bringing it up. About a month ago, I was listening to a bunch of Paul Harvey's when I was driving down to the U.S. Maybe I'll do some more of that today. He really is great. He's told, and yeah, I like him because it's not in a political camp and in either side. And I'm going to talk more about that in the next stream, which will be probably on Saturday. I'm going to talk about a little bit more. I mean, these are things you learn when you learn marketing and persuasion and communication and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to talk more about, the silos that we fall into, and do people really want to know the truth? And the answer is people don't want the truth. None of us do. That's why we have the scientific method, which has been bastardized by these communists, by the way, over the past few years. But it's important to understand that people, you need to persuade them over to your side. That when people get angry and they slip into cognitive dissonance, some of the people, when I bring up the sabotage of the Freedom Convoy, and some people try to attack me and Dichter's this, I know they're going to do that intentionally. I want them to do that. That's the point. That's the strategy. I want them to attack me. And there's a reason for that. There's a long-term strategic play in doing that, and I'll explain that over time. David, correct. I suspect Gerald Butts colluded with the DNC and met with their political strategist prior to 2015. The 2015 Canadian federal election. We have a deep state, a.k.a. a uniparty in Canada, whether we are willing to admit it or not. And it's funny, I'll mention this. There's somebody I spoke to a long time ago, a number of years ago, Chris Alexander, who was the former immigration minister. And I remember asking him at a private event, and I said, Chris, I don't understand. Like, with all the, his file was immigration, obviously, and there's a number of issues around immigration, and I'm not anti-immigration. I'm big on meritocracy myself. And I said, I don't understand why you didn't get we have these policies, why don't you implement them? And he said to me, you don't think I've tried? You don't think every day I would send a letter to ministry staffers and tell them this is the revamped policy. This is the policy you're going to follow. And he said, you know what they would do? They'd just ignore it. Just ignore it, wait for the next liberal government, and then that's it. So do we live in a democracy then? If the bureaucracy is that powerful, they're just going to ignore directives coming from people who are elected, who are supposed to be our public servants? No, and that's why I'm part of we need to take the public sector and fire 90% of people there and make it 10% of what it is, right? All of them, gone, get out. And that comes from, being in a family growing up with somebody who worked in the public sector. And I saw how pathetic it is. And, you saw that in Ottawa during the commission when every, police agency, whatever group is blaming each other. They don't do shit. They sit on their ass all day. And, I shouldn't say that. There's lots of people who work very, very hard in the public sector, especially in policing. But that tends to be people on the ground. But when you get to a certain level within the bureaucracy, middle management or higher often, then, the incentive is no longer there. And it's massively inefficient. I think that's probably a better way. I don't want to ascribe malice to just inefficiencies and sometimes incompetency, right? And that's why it needs to be shrunken tremendously. But automation and artificial intelligence is going to take care of that for us because the economics always wins. All right, so a couple of comments before we go. I got to cut it short because I have a hard stop that I've just passed, and I only got 2 more minutes. Good morning, Lynn. Good morning, Cheryl, Sonia. You guys are all awesome. Roxanne, okay. You're all talking with each other. I love you. So that's basically all I wanted to talk about today. I know today is short, but this strategy that is used by the political extremists or the eco-extremists in the case of Butts or whatever, you need to understand that this is the tactic that they're using. And when you understand, I talk periodically about postmodernism and subjectivism, oppressor versus oppressed. This is why. Because these are the tactics that those people use. And once you understand their underlying philosophy, then they're so easy to predict. They're very, very easy to understand, and then they're not so scary. and then they don't really bother you so much, and you can just figure out a way not only to push back against them, but to erode at their base of support and reach the reasonable people who might be following their nonsense, which is what we're trying to do here, which is why this is the Freedom Coffee live stream, and why one of the things I say is we're going to be working on expanding our freedoms in the future. So I hope that all helps. Okay, a couple questions here, comments here on locals. Doesn't matter. That sounds for me. Okay, you're talking about all of the above. Yeah, but you know what? You know why I don't do all of the above? All of the above is kind of the lazy part. That's the lazy response. I want to force you to choose between one of the three. And I know it sucks sometimes. It's frustrating, but I do it because I love you. Lisa, I have a few government contracts. I would be working while the full-time employees did nothing. Yeah, everybody's had that experience. Everybody. That is a very, very common. I think maybe what we need to do is we need to have like these high-paid government positions have term limits, just like they want politicians to have term limits. Maybe the bureaucracy should have term limits. You know, if you're a certain level of management in a ministry in the government or a bureau in the government in the United States, you got 5 years, you get a pension for those 5 years, and then you're out, right? And then you can take that, put it on your resume, and go back to the private sector. Perhaps that's the way to do it. See, Patricia Woods at Technology News. Okay, I will check it out when I'm in the truck now. Okay, I know this one's short. I apologize, but I did want to say good morning to all of you. I hope this sheds some light on some stuff, and you can share this. Share this with as many people as possible. The smear tactics that they use, when you understand them, then they're no longer effective, and it doesn't bother you. That's why I don't care what anybody says about me. Go ahead, write letters about me, do things about me. Like, great. That just plays into my strategy and where I'm going over the long term. We need to downside the government. We need to save millions. The amount of staff to support the incompetence is staggering, says Julie, 100%. And Hitchhiker, later, brother, hashtag honk honk. Thanks for being here. And everybody, I got to run to my truck and get down to the States. And I love you all. We'll talk to you soon. Bye. How do you end a stream on